Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. And in today's video, I'm going to be doing part one of a 5-part mini-series where I'm going to be going over every color in the Alpha Class TCG, give you some idea of the types of contenders that are a part of each color, as well as some archetypes. That way when you go to pick your favorite contender or your favorite deck building choice, you have a better understanding of what you're getting into with each color. And also it will help you of when you start splashing colors together, you can understand what does each color bring to the table when it comes to deck building. So hopefully you enjoy it. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. Hopefully enjoy your stay. If you're a long-standing supporter, thank you so much. As always, we'll get right into it. So the first color we're going to go over today is blue. Blue is really cool. Blue is a very powerful color in the Alpha Class TCG. There are 5 colors: blue, green, red, white, and black. Blue has a lot of utility cards in it, a lot of resource manipulation, which we'll talk about here in a second, and a lot of defensive capabilities like blue is in other TCGs, but it also has some very unique archetypes as well, depending on what your goal is and who you're playing. So the first thing we want to talk about in blue, and probably the most prominent archetype in the color, is resource manipulation. In the Alpha Class TCG, barring a additional ability or some type of contender ability like Genesis here or some of Haven's cards, most of the time you draw a card and you put a card down in your resource zone, and then you can use that as a resource. So you generally ramp as you go on, which is really good because you don't ever get mana screwed, so to speak, because you're using cards from your hand to pay for resources rather than having specific land type cards. However, sometimes you want to be able to ramp that up a little bit quicker and get your more powerful cards out right off the gate, right? Blue gives you the opportunity to do that. Contenders like Genesis say once per turn you may play one ready card from your resource zone as though it were from your hand. If you do, put a card from your hand into your resource zone. So you're able to put cards down in your resource zone, use them, and then play them from the resource zone, put another card down, and you cycle cards through. Genesis also has other cards that allow you to manipulate your resource zone pretty effectively, and it's one of the most powerful contenders in the game for that reason. You then have Haven Bide in Time. Now, Haven innately does not have a resource manipulation type ability, but she does have cards that allow her, that are in her archetype style, that allow her to manipulate it. She also cares about counters, which is another big thing in blue. Blue has a lot of counters decks. And when I say counters, I mean Haven has, during your turn, whenever this contender loses health, you may put a collection counter on target relic you control. This ability triggers once per turn. And then once she gets a certain amount of relics counters, she can win the game, has an alternate win condition. We have Mean Streak, Lynn. We'll talk about all those here in a second. So as you can see here, Genesis the Oppressor is one of Genesis's many cards that manipulates the resource zone. If you play this card from your resource zone, ready up to 2 resources you control. So you can put this in your resource zone, use it as a resource, then play it, readying 2 resources that you've already used before, and it has other counterattack and counterplay abilities. Genesis has a lot of cards that do this type of thing. This is an epic, so it's a very key card in Genesis kit, but it's very, very good. You put it down, it's a 6-drop, so you put it down in the early game, and then you can use it in the late game, which is really useful because sometimes you'll get your 6 and 5 drops on turn 1, and you can't use them for a while, right? So you just use them as a resource, but then they kind of go away even if you have multiple copies. What Genesis allows you to do is play it at a later time, which is really good. Haven, one of Haven's several cards that allows you to ramp. Check out my ramp. It says put a card from your hand into your resource zone. So this allows you to put a card down at the start of your turn like you normally would for a resource, and then play this card putting another card down. So you're trying to ramp up really quickly. Haven also has clash cards that do this as well, so there's a lot of ramp in this. Going to the counters archetype that I talked about, this is one of 3 main counters archetypes in the color, is Haven's collection counters. You may send another target clash card you control to Oblivion. If you do, put 2 collection counters on target relic you control. Haven has a relic that allows her that says once it gets so many counters, you win the game. So you're trying to buy time while staying alive, trying to get these counters on there, trying to keep your relic alive, and end up winning the game. Other counter-like decks are Lynn and Mean Streak. Lynn cares about bounty counters, and Mean Streak cares about streak counters. Lynn's bounty counters, clash cards you control, may attack ready clash cards with 1 or more bounty counters on them. So normally in Alpha Clash, you only can attack your opponent's clash cards if they're engaged, unless says otherwise, like close combat. Lynn's ability, basically, because she's an assassin, allows you to Put a bounty counter on a key card that your opponent's trying to keep alive by not swinging with it. Maybe it has a stack ability, and then be able to use that to kill it. Her bounty counters can also be used to diminish cards, so like banish cards off the top of your opponent's deck or put them in an oblivion. And then also, the more bounty counters she has, the more innate abilities some of her cards have. Mean Streak is very similar, where he uses these streak counters to buff up his cards. And we'll talk about that here in a second. There's 2 Mean Streaks in the game right now. This one specifically says class cards you control with no streak counters get a trigger attack, put a streak counter on them. During your primary phase, you may engage this card and remove 2 streak counters from among class cards you control. If you do, draw a card. So some of Lynn's key cards are Lynn the Nanite Assassin, which is also a card that is splashed into a multitude of decks, even if your contender is not Lynn. Target opponent diminishes 1 card, then you may put a bounty counter on each target clash card you don't control. So if you are Lynn, that means you basically can attack any clash card on the field that they have. At the end of the turn, if 1 or more clash cards with bounty counters were defeated this turn, you may put target clash card with an initial resource cost of 2 or less from the Oblivion into your clash zone. So you're able to recur these like low cost pieces that are really key to Lynn's kit. She also has very similar 4-drop 4/4. It says target opponent diminishes 3 cards. That player may engage a ready resource they control to negate this effect. So again, she's a mill deck, but also is a deck that uses bounty counters to be able to control the opponent's board, even if they're not wanting to interact with you, which is really good. Mean Streak is one of my favorite ones. Mean Streak has a lot of cool cards that have decent abilities on face, but when you start putting streak counters on, they start getting really powerful. One of his most powerful cards, arguably his most powerful card, is Mean Streak Blink of an Eye. It's a 4/4. It's a 4-drop 3/2 with super speed, which means it deals damage before the clash card that it's attacking without super speed does. You may play this card without paying its resource cost by sending a T-Bone or Mean Streak clash card to the clash from the clash zone to the Oblivion. When this card defeats another clash card, you may put 1 streak counter on it. If this card has 1 or more streak counters, it gets 1/1. 3 or more, it gets breakthrough. 5 or more, all your clash cards get 2/2. And 10 or more, it gets 5/5. So when you swing with this, with Mean Streak, the Mean Streak that I showed earlier, this card, it automatically is going to get a streak counter because it has a trigger attack. So it's going to come in for 4/3 just right off the bat. And then if you can, and it has super speed, so it can kill other clash cards a lot easier because it deals damage instead of dealing simultaneously, which allows it to defeat clash cards better that may trade with it, so to speak. Mean Streak Finishing Blow is also another one. It's exclusive, so only 1 can be on the field at a time. Trigger enter, put 1 streak counter on each clash card you control, then ready all clash cards you control with an initial resource cost of 3 or less. Very, very good for those low level go wide strategies. You swing with everything, then you lay this down, put a streak counter on all of them, which probably buffs them, ready all of them if they're 3 or less. And then when this attacks, you either can draw a card or target opponent discards a card. Very, very powerful. Also, not related to contenders, Blue has some defensive pieces like you see Blue have in a lot of different games, but in this game specifically, they're very strong. You have a trap accessory that you can put face down and pay 2 resources when someone attacks that says target attacking clash card gets -3/-3 until end of turn. Very good if your opponent's trying to trade a key piece with you. It allows you to potentially defeat a key clash card they have or save yourself from dying. And then Lefty's Last Stand is one of the biggest ones in my opinion. It's a quick action, so you can play it at instant speed and counter to an attack. Prevent all clash damage that would be dealt by target attacking clash card this turn during this clash. So it's a way to stay alive. It doesn't matter if they're swinging for 10 or swinging for 1. It will prevent it, right? And that's really good if they're trying to trade with you on clash cards or they're trying to just take you out with a final hit from your contender and you need to last 1 more turn to hopefully turn the game in your favor. So there's very, very good defensive pieces. But yeah, for the most part, Blue at the time of recording this, which is mid-May of 2025, Blue is very big on resource manipulation, and it's very big on like counters decks, right? With whether it's bounty counters, Mean Streak counters, so you're using these counters to gain inherent value over time, and you're able to manipulate those counters just like you manipulate resources with Haven and Genesis, and you're able to outvalue your opponent. So if you're looking for archetypes or a color that is very how do I put this? It's not rampy, so to speak, but it's similar to white, and we'll talk about white in a different video. It's similar to white where it really if you enjoy decks that care about pilot skill and care about surviving. You know, at first you kind of start on a lower level than your opponent in terms of value, but over time, if you can survive and you can do what you're supposed to do, you'll eventually turn the tide, and then they just can't keep up with you. If you really like those kind of like combo decks, so to speak, maybe not all in one turn, but combo decks in terms of tempo shifting, this is a very good color for you. Genesis and Haven are really cool contenders. Haven's the only alternate win condition contender in the game right now. Genesis arguably is the best contender in the game right now because of the resource manipulation. Lynn is getting up there. A lot of people like Lynn. Some people are doing the general mill strategy. Some people are working on like the low of the ground go wide Lynn that basically recurs her cards with Nanite Assassin and is able to like put bounty counters on everything and basically choke your opponent out from being able to keep cards on the board. And then Mean Streak Boost is one of my favorite because Mean Streak starts like weak as a wet paper towel when you start the game. Like all of your cards innately are like -1 value in my opinion, but then over time, if you can basically outplay your opponent and stay alive, you start to just develop this board that is so difficult to deal with. So I really enjoy that line of play as well. So definitely check out blue. We're going to be going over the other colors here in the next week or two. I'm going to be doing this alongside the lore series. That way you have a better understanding of the lore with these contenders and start to put face to the name with some of these, right? Haven, you will learn about pretty soon when we start talking about clarity and some of the storylines with that, which is really, really cool. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe. If not me, it's completely fine. Go to our creator. I have now updated the creator sheet down below. I'm going to be adding onto it as much as I can. I have a Flesh and Blood tab as well as an Alpha Clash tab for other creators in the respective games. So if you don't like my content or you want to just explore other people's content, go down there, go to the tab, click on them. They're hyperlinked. Go follow them, support their stuff, especially this game. Because this game, the content creator pool, and this is not a hit on anybody, it's very small. Like there's not a lot of creators in the game right now. So, you know, getting those creators more support, encouraging them to make more content will then help spur other creators to talk about the game, and it'll just kind of be a snowbally effect, right? So hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see y'all next time on TCG Talk. Thank y'all so much.